Welcome to Divorce TV, and today we have our expert Carl Roberts of SplitSmart, focusing on co-parenting plans, shared story with Sheri Davies, and a healing with Jane Long. And I've got three juicy news stories for you. BBC is talking about Kanye West, who's agreed to joint custody of his and Kim Kardashian's 4 young children. So his response mirrors Kardashian's divorce filing from the 19th of February, which began the process of ending their almost 7-year marriage. In both of their filings, the US rapper and the TV reality star agreed that their marriage should end over irreconcilable differences. They've also agreed that they do not need spousal support. That's because they're both so rich. West and Kardashian have 2 daughters, North and Chicago, aged 7 and 3 respectively, and 2 sons, Saint, 5, and Palm, who turns 2 next month. According to the Kardashians' filing, they kept their property separate throughout their marriage because of the terms of a prenuptial agreement. So it sounds like they should be able to keep it all nice and peaceful. So well done to them. In the Lad Bible, we have a story about man marries same woman 4 times and divorces her 3 times to get more paid leave. This man definitely has very little respect for the institution of marriage. A man in Taiwan married the same woman 4 times, divorced her 3 times over the course of just over a month in a bizarre attempt to get more paid leave from the bank that he worked at. According to reports from Times Now News, the man works as a clerk at the bank in Taipei and fancied his chances of getting some extra holiday. Now, if you get married, you get 8 days of paid leave in Taipei. So he decided that he'd swing it so that he got married, then immediately divorced his new wife and married her again to repeat the process. That meant that he eventually accrued 32 days of paid leave. But the bank wasn't having it. Whilst they approved the leave for the first 8 days around the initial marriage, they refused all of the subsequent requests he made after he divorced her once the 8 days were up and returned to ask for more leave. Even so, the worker thought that he'd just carry right on and go through with the marriages and divorces. Then, once that was all done, he filed a grievance with the Taipei City Labour Bureau, accusing the bank of breaking the law by refusing his leave. Incredibly, they reviewed the case and ruled in his favour. The bank was found to have violated Article 2 of the Labour Leave Rules and ordered to pay a fine equivalent of £512. That was in October 2020, and the bank have since appealed and claimed that the man's malicious abuse of marriage leave was not a legitimate cause of leave under the Labour Leave Rules, according to the New Talk Taiwan. Despite that, the Beijing Labour Bureau upheld their ruling on April the 10th, 2021, stating that even though the employer's behaviour was unethical, it wasn't illegal, and therefore he was actually entitled to the leave that he'd asked for. I wouldn't recommend trying that one yourself. And to finish with, the Times of India is talking about in Bengaluru, out-of-job hubby turns escort and wife seeks divorce. A 24-year-old woman has sought divorce after her husband, who lost his job in the impact of COVID-induced lockdown, became a commercial sex worker and kept his new profile under wraps. Despite intervention through a helpline with extensive counselling sessions, the couple couldn't resolve their differences and are set to part ways by mutual consent. His wife noticed something unusual as he was extremely engaged with his laptop and mobile phone and started making untimely and unexplained visits to places about which he wouldn't discuss in detail with her. In mid-November, his wife took the help of her techie brother to crack open her husband's laptop, only to find a folder with graphic photos. She discovered he was a male escort charging 3,000 to 5,000 rupees per hour and had numerous clients in the city. Her husband declared his love for his newfound secretive profession, which was introduced to him by a close friend, but promised to give up being a gigolo to save his marriage. However, his wife was determined to end the relationship, and the couple have now filed a mutual consent divorce petition. That's not the first time we've had a story along those lines, and it must be very difficult when your spouse decides to become a sex worker. So yeah, if you've got any comments on that, do put them in the comments. Let us know if that's something you've experienced. And Carl. We welcome Carl as our expert for this week. So Carl, you've been on the show a little while ago. SplitSmart. I'm always mentioning SplitSmart to everybody basically who comes into the app. It's in there in the Best Way to Divorce app. I think it's a fantastic resource for co-parents, and we're going to focus today, aren't we, talking a bit about the creating a co-parenting plan side of things. Could you just start by just saying what made you create this?
Well, I mean, as a lot of us in this business, I mean, we're inspired by our own life's journey and our life experiences. And mine was a 9-year high conflict divorce and custody battle that just never should have been. And in that, I mean, most of us have been through that. We recognize how often children are just put in the middle of this. Whether it's a financial prize on their head because of child support, or of the emotions of one or both of the parents that are using the children as weapons against the other. It's just not needed. I mean, it's obviously not good for children, and and in my journey, just the light bulb came on how to solve this for those parents and keep children out of the middle.
And in simple terms, it's online software that if you might have a few kind of discussions you've had about the child arrangements, but for most people, they don't sit down and make a proper plan and agreement. And I always stress to people, it doesn't have to be a legally binding agreement. It's just something you need to talk about. I mean, it's important, isn't it? So perhaps talk us through a little bit about how your software helps people arrange their co-parenting, and the details that you cover, because it's like a template, isn't it?
It is a template. It's a pretty exhaustive template. Here in the U.S., we had the 4 areas of decision making. We got 4 different types of schedules, being school, summer, vacation, and holidays, and about 15 miscellaneous items, of which you can always add more to yourself. And when you have a fairly amicable couple, that they can kind of run through this and put all the details that they'd like that suits their family fairly easily in kind of a single pass or a single setting type thing. But for a lot of people, I mean, so the idea was to try to provide the less than amicable parents the guardrails to kind of stay on that straight and narrow path. Because a lot of people, when they start talking about custody type matters, they oftentimes kind of enter this conversation in a more emotional state. And so when they're more emotional, then they're not really speaking for the benefit of the child. They're speaking more for their selfish benefit, and whether that's punitive towards the other, or whatever the case is. It's just not more child-centered. More child-centered. And so I've got this kind of belief that, and so in this large template, it's kind of a line item negotiation process for each individual item. And I've got this belief that a written position softens a verbal stance. And, again, that verbal stance being more emotionally driven, where it's just not child centric. But writing it down, we're all going to go through this process of thinking about, what our words mean. Because we don't want that other parent to look at our words, or be able to point at the words and say, see, he's in this for himself. We want our words to represent that we are in this for the children, and then the right thing. And so by that very measure, we soften our positions to be more child centric. And so even on the more difficult items, we are able to kind of get to a more palatable place for the children and our families as a whole. At the end of the day, I really believe that we all want, peace, love, and equality, going forward. And it's just the emotions that get so many of us tripped up and heading down that negative path that just not beneficial for us ourselves, much less for our children. And that's my goal, is to, keep us all on that straight and narrow path to getting there.
And I guess in a way, it really takes out all the opportunity to argue right up front, because whereas a discussion might dissolve into an argument very quickly, or bitchy text, for example, if you're just using your software and someone's going, right, these are the school holidays, there's nothing to argue about. At least you can kind of get that bit in there, and then the next step is who's going to have who in the school holidays, and how's that going to work, and that's where things could get more contentious perhaps. But you're not talking to them, are you? You're just sending them something, and they can approve it and disapprove it, so they can interact with it, but they're not having to interact with you personally, which is the key, let's
Yes.
face it.
Yeah, so there's two basic decisions that amicable parents make every day, whether they think about it or not. They are first, they're separating time and money, custody and child support to be able to solve both more easily. And on the money side, they're clearly distinguishing between adult benefit of money and child benefit of money. And just to avoid that conflict, because I mean, most of us want to be able to provide for our children to the best of our ability, but not a single one amongst us wants to provide for the ex through child support. And that's where a lot of the problem is. So yeah, so and this is a pre-decree type template. So it's just trying to get you into that framework of thinking of, okay, this is what we want. And and not selfishly oriented, but for the family as a whole. And by creating this template, this agreement, again, and you can legalize it by attaching it as an exhibit within your agreement, but it is just kind of gets you to that happy place that much easier.
And also, if people are going, perhaps using mediation, for example, or collaborative process to have those difficult discussions, just to have it all kind of laid out and organized, and it must be easy. Can you sort of print stuff out? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, so again, so the parenting plan is, for all practical purposes, it's a working document during the mediation phase. So as you work through I mean, and so again, the idea is the couple can kind of, find those little bits of pieces where they agree on, so they can work, and where they agree on the items, that then that position is kind of listed in the middle and it's marked off as agreed. But where they have yet to reach agreement, then it's side by side positioned on each individual item. And so, basically, I talk about it here in the States, being from a football terms. I mean, the mediator is able to start off at the 20-yard line going in versus the opposite end zone, where people show up, throw up, and blow up, to get things done. So they put some thought into this beforehand, and it changes the entire dynamics of the process.
I think that's so true, particularly where you've got a contentious co-parenting relationship. To begin with the things that inevitably there will be some things that you can agree on, because they're things like, these are the school holidays, if nothing
Yeah.
else. And it's psychologically, it's really powerful to have, being able to tick off the things that you do agree about, because I think people go straight for what they disagree about, and ignore all the areas of agreement. And as you say, it changes the whole culture of the discussion. I've just did a workshop last night for people who are divorcing a difficult spouse, and some of them are in very, very difficult situations. I know you had quite a tricky time. Could you explain a little bit about how why, if you have a very difficult spouse, this software is perhaps even more useful?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what, so I built this in the worst of circumstances, around inspired by the worst of the worst type thing, right? And so again, and you have to have people, I mean, both parents have to participate for it to have value. And so again, when you start, if you got a mediator, the mediator wants to know your position on every item, so that they can try to reach you to agreement. And so it's simply, I mean, whether or not you can agree to things or not, you're able to just state your position. And just by, and people want to state the position instead of, again, showing up, throwing up, and blowing up. And just by stating that position, we all kind of go through that natural process of thinking, kind of checking our words, hopefully, and uh, and checking our words. And so instead of continuing to change the goalposts, so to speak, we're kind of putting it down in black and white. We start to separate the emotions from the process, and it's so much. I mean, again, from a mediator standpoint, if they can kind of, from a best practices standpoint, have their clients, again, acknowledge, what do you want out of this, peace or conflict? And okay, well, we got to reinforce this piece. I mean, whatever decisions you're going to make is going to reinforce one of those. So let's try to reinforce those peaceful thoughts. And it's incredibly easy if once you make that intelligent decision.
That's brilliant. And I'm looking forward to getting you back, because there's another aspect, isn't it, around the financial aspect. So, but we'll get you back soon, hopefully, to come and talk about that. Thank you so much. And for everyone who's watching, free app, Best Way to Divorce. In there, you will find in the welcome pack access to SplitSmart. Go and try it.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks so much. And we are going to have a very short QR masterclass. And in this, we are still on calm seas, which is the last section of the divorce discovery journey. A couple of things I wanted to share with you. And this section is called attack. So what do I mean by that? So when we're obsessed with how victimized and attacked we feel, we often lose track of what is most important. So my suggestion is that you do three things. The first one is that whenever your ex or their lawyer do something that makes you feel bad, just notice how personally you take it, when in fact that may not be the intention at all. Sometimes it is, especially if you get a nasty letter on a Friday night, but quite often it's the way you've chosen to interpret that communication, not necessarily how it was meant. And allow yourself to imagine for a moment that this actually is nothing personal. It's just the business of divorce. Then the second thing that I found really useful was to have a mantra to dispel the wave of despair and rage that often accompanies feeling attacked and bullied emotionally. So my one was, I used to go, he loves me. And I used to laugh out loud because that did not seem to be the truth at that time. But the more I said it, the less attached I felt, and the more at peace I could feel, and my actions were then more rational, and this ultimately made healthy co-parenting more possible. What's interesting to note is that your subconscious has no filter for truth. So whatever you tell yourself, you'll automatically begin to believe that, which is very handy. And the third aspect we're going to talk about next week, it's to get your children to help you. So I asked my kids to give me some advice, and they literally wrote the 10 commandments of co-parenting, particularly when you have a new person in the relationship. But I'll be sharing that with you next week. Preparing now for our shared story. And welcome to Sheri. Thank you for joining us. And getting past all the technical hitches that everybody has when they try and come on the show, but no one would ever tell. So thank you so much. What's the shared story that you're going to be sharing with us today?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on today. My divorce has really been part of my life story, and I'm really passionate now about helping other people going through divorce realize they can create kind of the post-divorce family that works for them in a healthy way. I went through a divorce with my mom and dad. Got divorced when I was 6, and then my mom remarried when I was 9. And divorced again when I was 15. And so for me, it was just for me, divorce always represented, there were aspects of loss, disconnection. I lost relationships with family, extended family. I didn't have a very present father in my life. And so you can imagine, I really never wanted to get divorced. But when I found myself, it's almost 10 years ago, this fall, I had been married 16 years. We had 2 beautiful daughters who are 9 and 11. And it came very suddenly. I discovered that and learned that my husband was gay. And I knew instantly that my marriage was going to end. And even though I had sensed something, I had been crying every day, my body kind of was preparing me. I think like something is happening, something is coming. But I didn't want to look at my marriage as being the issue because I really didn't want to be divorced. So I realized, even though there were very hard times to follow, including my now ex-husband ended up being laid off and taking a job across the country. And we ended up co-parenting our daughters across the country from each other. And so I really learned that I needed to communicate well. I needed to really put the kids first and what was important for them. And he really also agreed, thankfully. And so it was a really, there were really tough times in going through the adolescent years. And he ended up he has a boyfriend who has been a really important part of our co-parenting and has really, we've all benefited from that, and including our daughters. And so it's been really an interesting journey. And I, like my mother, who still, I think, really held on to like how divorce used to be done. She would say, I'm just going to follow your lead, like, okay, it's okay for us to have, okay, I can still send a birthday card to my former son-in-law and his boyfriend. My mother does both of those things.
Lovely.
Like I can, because for her, she just knew how she operated was just like, we're not going to talk. I lost relationships with grandparents, cousins, which I reconnected with as an adult, because connection is just so important to me. And so, yeah, it's been a really interesting journey, and our daughters now are in college. For high school graduation, we ended up my older daughter's graduation several years ago, 3 years ago now. We had, it was my mom, it was my ex-husband, his boyfriend, the boyfriend's dad, my ex-husband's divorced parents. It was like we had
proper
together.
extended, family.
And
yeah.
So sometimes I'm so struck by, wow, I did this, and I got support and help along the way, and thankfully had, my ex-husband, I think, realized he came from divorced parents as well, but realized like I think we all just felt better that we could do this and get along. So we now travel together. We've been on trips, we all, we cook. We have a family group chat with all of the girls and me and my ex-husband and his boyfriend. And I think they're used to that. I think some of their friends are surprised, when, that we all get along. But I think it really helps us, that whole making lemonade out of lemons. It is this like, how can I think it felt very out of control. Like I didn't have control over that situation that happened, but I do have control over how I choose to respond, how I choose to behave, and model for our girls that life doesn't always, go the way you think it's going to go, but, you can choose how to kind of create your life moving forward.
And I think it's amazing that your mum recognised that the way her divorce went was just cutting everything off, and it wasn't a great thing for the children or for you. Did you have brothers and sisters as well?
I have a younger sister. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my father, unfortunately, has serious mental health issues, and so wasn't able to really be a parent, involved parent in my life, and there no child support. So my mom, now that I'm a mom, and I've now gone through divorce, I can understand a lot of the choices she made and the difficult situation she was in, to all of a sudden have to support 2 daughters and not receive any child support. And so I think that some of that financial instability leads us to then get into relationships too quickly, like she did with my stepdad, which wasn't a good match. And, but it was still a huge transition and loss again for me, I had 2 stepsisters, we all lived together, and then one day it was over and I never talked to them again.
Oh, that's shocking. And but we're so lucky in this day and age, in not all countries, but many countries, where we do have more freedom to be more intelligent about how we do things where possible. Because obviously, when you have mental illness, violence, it's not so easy. But
Right.
I love your story, and that's led you to do what you do now, isn't it?
Yes, I've been a licensed clinical social worker for 20 years and worked with teenagers and young adults. And I have a coaching business, and I'm a certified divorce coach. And so I work with people to help them, learn how to be kind to themselves, and self-compassion is a big thing that I know is so important for parenting teenagers, as well as going through divorce. We all need self-compassion and to practice gratitude for the things we can feel grateful for. I am grateful that it did come out earlier, and we didn't try to keep the marriage together until our youngest graduated high school. It was better, that it came out, that it was better, that we were able to really have that time for me, especially, to rebuild my life before all of a sudden my kids were gone. So
yeah, no, that's very true. I
yeah.
think it's traumatic enough when the children leave, but to then be divorcing as
Yeah.
well is often the worst time. And
It's
also, I think
really
older,
hard.
and older children, they don't want their parents living a lie either.
Right.
They can be very upset about that, can't they? So I think it was courageous of you both to
Yeah. We're living more
lovely.
authentically.
Yeah.
Yes, living that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that story. And so hopefully you can come back at a later date and give us some more stories from your own experience, because you must have had a few adventures to make that all work so well. And it would be lovely to hear them.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheri. Bye-bye. Quick look at the app. I wanted to draw your attention. bestwaytodivorce.online will take you to the free Best Way to Divorce app. And one of the things to keep an eye on is 3 critical divorce facts. That is it's also free. You've got no excuses. And in there are the 3 things that are, as far as divorce strategies go, can make such a big difference. So and they're really important, and they're not the things on the whole that anyone else will tell you. I don't know why. That's why I do what I do. So go and listen to those. If you've got the app and you haven't bothered to look at the 3 critical divorce facts, go in there. It's a short video, but it's really, really valuable, and I do encourage you to look at it. We had a fantastic workshop last night, and this one is back to our normal type, which is ideal for people early stages or just wanting to start to take a bit more control over it, and we've got that coming up in June. I'm very, very keen to run a US one. I keep saying it because I'm hoping someone will say, come and run a US one with us, Susie, and I really think we should, because we get great attendance and people get a huge amount of value from these workshops. Ready now for the healing. And welcome to Jane.
Hello, hi Susie. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, what a delight have you for us to end the show with today?
Well, this ties in, I think, quite nicely with what you've been speaking about with your guests so far. So, you're mentioning little experiences about changing your state, and so this is a gentle session to shift from discomfort to finding some ease and peace with your experience as it is now.
Fabulous. Well, I shall let you take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a gentle session to shift from discomfort to feeling at ease. So perhaps I wonder if there's a situation that's bothering you at the moment. Is there something that you'd like the answer to? Or perhaps you're experiencing emotional or physical discomfort. Through this meditation, I'll invite you to tap into your experience as it is now and discover how to find the unlimited resources to light, calm, and peace. And just remember that you already have all the resources you need by trusting in yourself and using your body and your breath. It's a great way to access your intuition. So now I invite you to notice the connection with your chair or wherever you're sitting at the moment. Perhaps your sitting bones are connecting with your seat, your lower back supported and firm. And if you'd like to, you could close your eyes or lower your gaze, and placing your hands where they land, perhaps on your lap or just down by your side. Maybe you want to squeeze your hands or self-soothe, and gently take some breaths in and out, and sitting with alertness and awareness. We become observers of our sensations in our body and our thoughts in our minds while we are alert and aware. So now just place your feet on the floor, the whole area of your feet firmly on the ground. So your heels, your arches and balls of your feet, pads of your toes, and notice the ground receiving your feet. And as you breathe in, send your awareness down to one foot, and breathing out. And breathing in again, and sending your awareness to the other foot. And then breathing in again, and sending your awareness to both feet together. And that awareness will wander down through the floor and down into the earth below. And it's okay if you find that your mind is wandering or distracting you. It's what your mind does. So you can just guide your awareness back down to your feet and be present and grounded. And now you are grounded. You send that awareness back up to your feet, through your ankles and up through your calves, through your knees and through your thighs, and just arrive at your hips, and your hips being the center point of your body. Moving to your tummy, your solar plexus, and then arrive at your chest, your heart center. And if you'd like to, you can place your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths in and out. And in and out. And last time, in and out. And gently just breathing and being aware of your heart space. And what arises for you as you're breathing into that space. If there are any sensations of discomfort or unwanted thoughts or feelings, just acknowledge them. Accept them for what they are. They are just thoughts and feelings. And you are an observer of these thoughts and feelings. And as you take gentle breaths in and out, you do so with acknowledgement. And now I invite you to shift your focus and tap into the sensation you experience when you bring a person that you care into your mind, or a happy memory. How is that for you? What sensations are there? Do you smell fresh air? Are there colours? Is there a taste to experience? Make this a real sensorial experience. And keep your hand on your heart and breathe that new sensation into your heart. Breathing in and out. And in and out. And as you bathe in this wonderful feeling, ask your heart for intuition or a solution to resolve any discomfort or unwanted experiences. And listen and see or feel what your heart is trying to tell you. Maybe some words or images or a message. How clear is that for you? How do you want things to really be? And keep with the breathing in and out. And in and out. And now bring in a sense of appreciation to yourself and all those in your life. And that's coming from your heart space. Knowing that with each breath, you're sending positive signals all through your nervous system, emitting through your energy field and creating a loving, safe space for you right in this moment. And let's take this newfound energy up into your throat and to your neck area and into your shoulders, and releasing any tension, just letting it go, sending the loving energy up into your jaw. Allow your jaw to drop or soften. Let your tongue relax to the bottom of your mouth. And send that energy into your headspace, allowing any thoughts to pass freely. And you will have thoughts, and you accept them and allow them to pass. Your energy is now ready to shine through your crown space. And imagine it as a bright white light connecting you to your energy field around you, connecting with your universe. And then showering golden white light all around you. Just breathing gently. And know that you are safe and protected and calm. Thank you.
And with that, we can say, in the war of divorce, on the battlefield of family separation, always make peace your weapon of choice.